some men never recover from a certain kind of woman. She doesn't storm into his life, she arrives like dusk, quietly, without warning. Her presence does not ask for his attention, yet his attention begins to revolve around her. He doesn't know why. He only knows that something in her unsettles him. Something he cannot name, cannot own, cannot bend to his will. At first, he tries the familiar, the gentle pull of his confidence. But these things do not seem to matter to her. It is as if she lives in a world just beyond his reach. A world where his approval is not the currency. And here, the first seed is planted, the seed of obsession. Because the man who has always felt in control now feels the slow erosion of that control. Not because she has taken it, but because she never offered him the chance to hold it. She moves through the room not faster, not slower than anyone else. But somehow, he feels the air change when she does. There is a stillness, an unspoken refusal to perform. And it is in that refusal that he feels his hunger grow. He doesn't understand that what draws him is not her beauty alone, but her autonomy, her refusal to orbit him, even in the smallest ways. The more he watches, the more he imagines what it would mean to be the man who could reach her, to be the one she allowed into that hidden place. But there is a truth he will not admit, even to himself. That place may not exist for him at all. For this is the woman who does not belong, not to him, not to any man. And the more she lives untouched by his attempts, the more he feels himself drawn into her gravity. Here is the paradox. The man cannot possess her, and yet, in some secret way, she possesses him. Not through seduction, not through promises, but through the quiet, almost holy absence of needing him. He will replay her words, her silences, her glances that seem to see too much. And each replay will bind him tighter, not to her body, but to the mystery he cannot solve. This is how it begins. The slow entanglement, the silent battle between desire and dignity, between the need to conquer and the fear of being conquered. When a man meets the woman he cannot possess, he will either break himself trying, or he will learn the rarest of lessons, that some treasures were never meant to be owned. Begins almost imperceptibly. He notices her, but not in the way he notices others. She is not the loudest in the room, not the one drawing laughter like moths to a flame. And yet, she occupies a space, as if the air itself recognizes her. At first, he tells himself, it's nothing, just curiosity. But in the quiet corners of his mind, something begins to stir. This woman doesn't respond to him in the predictable ways. She doesn't lean forward when he speaks. Her gaze doesn't linger too long. If she smiles, it is not the kind of smile that invites him closer. It is the kind that acknowledges him and then releases him back to the crowd. And this release is what begins to work on him, because he is accustomed to the opposite. He has spent his life being the center of gravity in his relationships, people adjusting themselves to fit his pace, his stories, his rhythms. But here, she does not adjust. She does not lean in to match his warmth, nor pull away to create distance. She simply remains, unaffected, and it unsettles him, not in a way that makes him turn away, but in a way that makes him lean further in, without knowing why. What he cannot yet name is that she is not performing. Her stillness is not a tactic. It is the natural state of someone who has met herself and found no need to be anything else. Her eyes do not search his face for approval. Her posture does not shift to mirror his movements. She does not fill silence with laughter, nor does she scramble to close the gaps between words. She allows silence to exist, and in that silence, he hears things he has never heard before. His own heartbeat, the weight of his breath, the strange, unfamiliar sensation of wanting to be chosen and not knowing if he will be. Thus something begins to fracture inside him, because desire, for him, has always been a pursuit with a script. He makes the move, she responds. He advances, she yields. But with her, the script is missing pages. Or perhaps she has thrown the book away entirely. In Jung's language, though he does not know it, he is encountering an image from his own unconscious. A figure who embodies not only the feminine, but the unknown. She is both real and something more than real, a projection of what he has yet to integrate, an echo of the anima he has ignored. But this is not just psychology, it is flesh and blood. It is the sound of her voice when she speaks slowly, as if measuring each word. It is the way she seems fully present, yet entirely untethered. The pull grows, because he begins to feel something he rarely feels: a lack of control. Control has always been his armor. It keeps him safe, keeps the world predictable. But she moves like water. No matter how he tries to cup his hands, she slips through. Not because she is avoiding him, but because she was never meant to be held that way. In the days that follow, he finds himself searching for her without meaning to. The gatherings, his eyes scan the room for her silhouette. In conversations, his attention drifts. Even when she is not there, she is there. And here lies the first turning point. He begins to shape himself, not to impress her, but to reach her. Small adjustments, a softened tone, a question asked more carefully. The beginnings of surrender, disguised as curiosity. Yet she remains unclaimed. Not because she is playing a game, but because she belongs first to herself. This is what he cannot touch. Her self-possession, the way her worth does not depend on his noticing. The way she would remain exactly as she is, even if he turned away. In the deep, unlit chambers of his mind, something resists this truth. For to admit it would mean admitting that his influence has limits. That there exists a world beyond the reach of his hands. But this is only the beginning. And the deeper he steps into her orbit, the more he will discover that the woman he cannot possess is not here to be captured. She's here to show him the mirror he has avoided all his life. Silence is not the absence of words. It's the presence of power. Carl Rogers once spoke of deep listening, the kind where you're not waiting to speak, but instead letting the truth unfold on its own. But in relationships, silence becomes something else. It becomes a mirror, one that forces the other person to face themselves. When you withdraw your energy from a man, truly withdraw, not in anger, not in games, but in emotional sovereignty, you give him no soft place to land. He begins to feel the sharp edges of his own emptiness. At first, he will not notice. Men are conditioned to believe they are in control of the emotional rhythm. They think you'll always be there, always picking up the pieces, always ready to listen when they decide it's time to speak. But when you step out of that rhythm, his entire sense of control is disrupted. This is where curiosity begins to work in your favor. He starts wondering, why isn't she reacting? Why isn't she fighting? Why isn't she trying to make me understand? It is in this void, the space where your voice used to fill the air, that desire begins to grow. And not just the easy kind of desire, the obsessive kind. Because here's the truth. Humans are addicted to patterns. When you break a man's pattern, you force his mind to work harder to solve the puzzle. The more he works to figure you out, the more emotionally invested he becomes. But here's the catch, you must be comfortable in that silence yourself. If you're using silence as a weapon, it will backfire. He will sense the tension, the performance. If you're using silence as a boundary, it becomes a gravitational force. There is a deep feminine magnetism in a woman who doesn't rush to fill empty space. Who can sip her coffee slowly while he stumbles over his words. Who can look at him and not through him. Who can breathe deeply and stay still when he tries to provoke a reaction. This is not about playing cold. It's about being warm to yourself first. When you step into your own world, a world where you are the source of your validation, your joy, your worth, he no longer gets to decide when you feel valued. And that is intoxicating to a man who has built his identity on being the center of your attention. Rogers would say that authenticity is the foundation of all human connection. But authenticity doesn't mean overexposure. You do not need to hand someone the blueprint to your soul just because they ask for it. Mystery is not dishonesty. It is simply knowing that not everyone has earned the right to witness the deepest parts of you. Think of it like a locked garden. The flowers inside are rare, fragrant, irreplaceable. If you let just anyone in, they will trample them without thought. But if you tend to your garden in private, if you nurture it without the need for applause, the man who eventually earns the key will understand its value. Men often claim they want transparency, but the truth is, many are addicted to the chase. They long for a sense of discovery, for the thrill of peeling back layers that aren't given too easily. Your detachment feeds that longing in a way constant availability never could. But be careful, there is a line between mystery and emotional unavailability. The first draws him in. The second drives him away. The art lies in giving him just enough. Enough to feel the warmth of your presence. Enough to taste the sweetness of your mind. But never enough to make him feel full. Scarcity amplifies value. This is not a trick, it's human nature. A rare gemstone will always be worth more than a pile of stones scattered on the street. And here is where Carl Rogers' humanistic insight meets feminine energy. People are drawn not to the person who makes the most noise, but to the one who makes them feel the deepest. When a man begins to realize that your silence is not emptiness, but a whole universe he has yet to explore, something shifts. He stops seeing you as an option. He starts seeing you as a force. A woman who understands her own worth becomes unpredictable in the most alluring way. One day, you are laughing with friends, radiant, unreachable. The next, you are quietly immersed in a book, indifferent to whether he's watching. This unpredictability is magnetic, because it tells him, without words, you do not own me. You do not control me. You do not define me. And yet, in the moments when you choose to let him in, when you share a thought or a look or a touch, it feels like a privilege. It feels earned. It feels rare. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing him, he starts chasing you. When you stop giving him constant reassurance, he starts seeking your approval. When you stop speaking to fill the silence, he starts speaking to fill it for you. He will lean in. He will ask questions he never asked before. He will notice details he once ignored. But because your absence from his emotional landscape creates a vacuum, and nature, especially human nature, hates a vacuum. Something must fill it. And that something will be his effort. The danger here is that if you break the silence too soon, you rob him of the opportunity to step into that discomfort. You rescue him before the transformation begins. And in doing so, you return to the same old pattern, the one where he knows you'll always come back first. The feminine art of detachment is not about making him suffer. It's about making space for him to show up differently. But you must be prepared for the truth. Sometimes, when you step back, a man will not come forward. And that is your answer. It's not a loss, it's liberation. Because a man who doesn't step into that space was never going to fill it in the first place. This is the quiet power of understanding your own emotional gravity. You do not need to plead for his presence. You do not need to fight for his attention. You do not need to explain your worth. When a man senses that you could walk away at any moment, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, he sees you differently. Not as someone to take for granted, but as someone he must rise to meet. And here's the most dangerous truth of all. Once you've tasted the peace of your own self-possession, you will never again settle for a love that makes you beg. Because in that silence, in that stillness, in that deliberate distance, you didn't lose him. You found yourself. There's a moment, after the storm, after the shouting, after the doors slam, when the air changes. It is the silence. The kind that doesn't just fill a room, it haunts it. Men will rarely admit this, but Carl Rogers would tell you, silence is an absence. It's a mirror. And when you walk away without a word, without a tear, without a hint of begging, you force him to see himself for the first time. Not the man he pretends to be, not the man he told you he was, but the man he actually is, stripped bare under the weight of your absence. Silence is not passive. It's the most active thing you can do when a man has taken you for granted. You are not punishing him, you are holding a mirror up to his soul. And men, they fear mirrors more than they fear war. He remembers your laughter now. Not because it's gone, but because it echoes differently when it's only in his head. That laugh he once brushed off? It now cuts him open in the quiet. He wonders, who is she laughing with now? And here's the truth, you don't even have to be with anyone. Men will fill in the blanks with their deepest insecurities. They will create ghosts in their minds that keep them awake at night. Rogers once said that people are driven by their need for acceptance and understanding. But here's the twist, when you stop offering that understanding freely, when you stop being the one who cushions his ego, when you stop handing out forgiveness like spare change, he will crave it. He will come crawling for it. And he won't know why. A man is addicted to the woman who once made him feel seen. But when you vanish into the shadows, you become the very thing he can't touch, can't control, can't predict. That's where obsession is born, in the spaces between his reach and your presence. When you speak, speak with intention. Not to defend yourself, not to explain, but to plant seeds that will grow in his mind long after you've left the room.